Hi team, in this video I'll be walking you through how to create an online testing roster in Illuminate via the student portal. Once you're ready to give the assessment online, you need to find the assessment within a tile that you've already created that links to your assessments or from within your view assessments. I'm going to click on my tile that has the assessments I want to give online. Once I find my assessment that I want to give, I'm just going to slide over here to the right to where I have an action drop down, and I'm going to click that and I'm going to hit administer. From here it will take me directly into the online rostering portal for my students. I've got two choices. I've got test in portal and test with quick code, and depending on which way I want to go, I have two options, and in this case I'm going to go with test in portal. Test in portal does adhere to your rosters that you have for your sections or classes during the day. Now, depending on your permission level in Illuminate across the district, you may have to drill in using these drop downs here, but in this case, because I am an elementary school teacher, I automatically see my elementary school class here. If you're secondary, you'll see multiple periods, or if you teach different classes during the day, those will all show up here, and depending on which class you're looking to assess, you can either do all sections to include them all or pick individual classes. You will see that I have my 25 rostered students automatically showing up, so I don't need to click on anything here. I can just see all 25 of my students. If I only wanted to test specific students, I could come in and I could click that one and only have this assessment go to one student, or I could shift click to select a group of students, or I could control click to grab separate students from my class. And you'll see that right below in yellow there that number is increasing. Now if I want to get all of my students, I just come back and I click all students, but it defaults to all students, so don't feel like you have to click things. Going back up to the top, know that when you assign a roster for online testing in Illuminate, it's going to default to being open for a week. And during that time, it's going to be open 24 hours a day during that 7-day period. So if you wish to control this, all you need to do is come in here and start to adjust. So if I'm going to give this test later in the week, I can come in here and say, you know what, I'm going to give this test tomorrow, and it'll adjust it out to the 14th, or I could take it even further, that if I wanted it to go all the way to the 15th, I could, or if I wanted it to close on the same day that I'm giving it, I could just click on the 8th again and make some adjustments to my time. So if my class started at 8 a.m. and then it was going to be finished by 10 a.m., I would just make those adjustments, and now this test would start on the 8th and finish at 10 a.m. for that one day. If you want to keep it open longer than that, all you got to do is make those changes within this. Just know that if you have it open for multiple days, it's going to keep that open 24 hours a day during that time period. Now, if I want to leave this open for a little bit longer, I can have another layer of security by saying, okay, I've got this test open for 4 days, but what I want to do is control the time of day that students can actually get in here and take the test. Well, if I scroll down and I come to administration settings and I click show, I have the ability to set what's called a daily window. And I like to use this for my secondary classes, to where I can make multiple rosters, and then I can set each roster to a specific daily window during that open period. So in this case, I've got a test that's going to be open from the 8th to the 12th, and now I only want this test to be open from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Now this test will be open for the 4 days that I have the window, and only available from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning each day. Now that is within the parameters that I have set here, so I'm good to go. If I wanted to set a specific time duration, I could. If you leave it at 0, there is no time duration. If you do put a time duration in there, let's say I put in 30 minutes, it will start the minute a student logs in to take the test, and once it expires, whether or not they X out of the browser before time expires or not, it will close them out of the test. Student pauses, I typically leave this one alone. If they X out of the browser and you don't have a time duration, it essentially pauses the test. so you can include that or not. If you want to set to 0, there is no pause. You can still pause the test, though, if you X out of the browser. CR input method just means that if you wanted students to do their constructed response online or written, if you switch to written, then students would need to submit a paper, and then you would hand score it within the system. Availability on open or password. If you click password, this is just another password that you would give students the day of the test that they would also need as another layer of security to get in. Typically really didn't use that feature very much, but it's another ability that you have. Right now, in distance learning, we do not have access to locked browsers, but once we're back in school, we do have locked browsers installed on our school devices that you could use during your assessment, and it would automatically force kids to use the locked browser app, and they wouldn't be able to change browsers and things like that. Also, you have the ability to randomize answer choice, meaning that my answer might be A, but your answer on the same question might be B or C. You could also, on the new item bank assessments, there's another option here that randomizes the test order. So that is a new feature that is available. It's just not shown here because I'm under the legacy item bank. But there are 3 choices now: normal, randomize the answers within the same question, or rearrange the questions in the test. I have some tool settings here. These are just additional tools that you could set for your students. The one that is kind of needs a little bit of explanation are these 2 right here, and that is for text-to-speech, either for a passage or for the question. This is all or nothing, so if I enable text-to-speech for questions and passages, that will do it for everybody on the test. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. Use item setting is just looking at the item that's already created and whether or not it has a calculator and things like that for that particular item. You can turn it on for the entire test, or you could just use the way the test is already created or the item is already created. Most of these are only available on item bank tests, so all of the calculators, protractor, those are available on any test you give and Illuminate. The spell checker, text-to-speech, highlighting, the dictionary, strike through, those are only available in the item bank test. The math equation editor is a pretty cool little tool that if you do have constructed response on your test and you want students to have access to math symbols, you can enable the math equation editor, and it would show up in the constructed response box. And depending on the grade level that you teach, it's pared down so that it's not information overload. So high school has access to all of the symbols that are out there. 3rd through 5th has a very minimal amount based on the standards that you teach, and grades 6 to 8 is just kind of right there in the middle. If you need to access that, this is where you do that. And then finally, we have the online testing assessment review settings. Now, this is a really important little tool that if you want students to have more than just an overall score on their test, you would come in and you will enable this here. So view assessment and teacher feedback just allows the students to see what number they missed. So instead of them just getting a score of 9 out of 10, it would show them 9 out of 10 and what number question was the one they missed. If you do give feedback on your assessments from the enter edit screen, students would also be able to see that feedback if you turn this on to yes. Cool feature here in the middle, this does allow you to control when that feedback is available. For me, I would typically set this to the day I'm going to review it. So my test closed on the 12th. Maybe I'm going to set this to be ready for them. So I need to go back here to May because it's backdated. But if I wanted this to be available on the 13th and then close on the 14th, I could do that, and then I just set my time. Maybe I only want it open during that time that I'm going to review it with my kids, so I would just have it from 10 a.m. To 12 p.m. With a key just means that students would be able to not only see my comments, which questions they got right or wrong, but also the answers as well. You can leave this to no, and they would only see the answers they got. They would only see the ones they missed, but not an explanation of what they did wrong with the correct answer. If you do switch to yes, they will see the rationale and they will see the correct answer. Now I just click save. And my online testing is ready to go. Now notice this is in yellow. That's because this is on a future date. And so the reason why it's showing yellow, even though we're in September right now is because this system is backdated. But if it was during this time, it would be green, ready to go. All that stuff is highlighted here and what that means. But it'll show you your date window, from what time it's open. There is no duration, what classes are being selected, and how many students I have rostering. All students will need to do from here to take the test is come into Clever and click the Illuminate Education app with the black background, and it should automatically log them in to take the test.